Hey everyone, it's Alex, and you're listening to the Everyday Stories podcast, a podcast about the everyday stories from the people you know and the people you don't know, here to help you learn a thing or two about life and the stories that define us. Today we're talking to Tess Cieplucha, a 2020 Tokyo Olympian, short course world champion, Pan Am champion, 8-time All-American from Georgetown, Ontario. Her specialty? The 400 individual medley. And for those who don't know what that is in the swimming world, that's the race where you swim all of the strokes. So Tess is very well-rounded in all of the strokes. And she studied environmental science at the University of Tennessee and is currently a pro swimmer, swim clinician, youth mentor, speaker, and sourdough enthusiast. And Tess and I first met when we were 13, 14, when you joined the Oakville Aquatic Club from a different club team that you were at in Georgetown. And you were one of the few that actually really made a career out of swimming, whereas all of us, we swam in college, did the thing, but you really did it. So my first question for you is, do you pee in the pool?
Unfortunately, yes.
That's okay, I do it too.
Every swimmer does. Not everyone admits to it, but over the years, I've had to own up to being honest with everybody. Yes, it happens all the time.
Yeah,
because sometimes
fair.
when you're in the middle of a set, you don't have time to get out.
No,
So
you don't have time for anything.
No one judges. We listen and do not judge about that.
Everyone does it. The chlorine will kill it all anyways. But to get back to the beginning of your swimming career, what initially got you into swimming?
So I first started swimming because I have an older sister. She's 4 years older than me, and she swam, and so my parents were just bringing me to the pool, and they're like, you need to start swimming eventually as well. We're here. So that's how I got into it. I was 7 years old, and so since then we moved to 3 different club teams, and my last one when I was just starting high school was Oakville, and so that's when we met each other. But like anyone who picks a sport when they're younger, I didn't have too many big goals when I was that young, but the longer I stuck with it, the more I kind of saw how I was reaching my goals and saw that there was potential in the sport and making a career out of it. And so just stuck with it, got an opportunity to swim in the U.S. at the University of Tennessee, and loved it and still loving it. And so making my first professional career through the sport.
Amazing. And I know that in 2016, I feel like that was the year that Canadian swimming really peaked. Yes. Driven by a girl, Penny Alexiak, Kylie Moss. There's so many names I feel like that came out of 2016. And I feel like now Canadian swimming is way faster than
Incredible.
I ever thought it could be. And recently I was walking around Soho, went into a Lululemon and saw this massive ad of Summer McIntosh just there. And I was honestly, this is crazy to see Canadian swimming in all of the spaces that I walk around in every single day. But my question around that is, how have you seen the sport of swimming grow and progress in Canada?
I think, there's always been kind of a older crowd in swimming, making 2012 Olympics in London, and there were some post-collegiate aged athletes in 2016, but now I think the people making 2016 are still made their second or third Olympics in 2024.
Yeah.
And so I think as the years have progressed, there have been a lot more opportunities that have been encouraged to swim post-grad in Canada. Comparing, it's just easy comparison to the US and just sports in general. There are just so many people in the US, and so there's a lot more opportunities. But Swim Canada, I think, has over the years been way more encouraging and accepting when people are finding like alternative programs, whether it's in another country or in another province or something, to keep swimming. Because swimmers peak, I think women peak especially like late 20s, like scientifically. And so why would we not keep swimming if we're doing well? And so I think that has helped a lot with obviously the speed and the like resume of Swim Canada, but also just like the maturity of the athlete. I think Team Canada has grown a lot, like personality wise and just like outside of the water as well, which has been cool to see, like following it growing up, like seeing our idols swim at like when we're 10, 12 years old. And then now I'm still part of that group and seeing how they've grown up as athletes and people and like taking that like personally, and I don't know, it's been cool. I think it's grown and matured a lot over the years.
Yeah, it always goes back to, I think about like old swimming quotes, and the one when you're just describing that, it made me think of like idols become your rivals. When you like, as you like grow up and you like start racing and you get like really fast to the point where like all the people that you grew up watching now you're like competing against them, is such like a almost like mind-blowing moment. You're like, I can't believe like I'm literally here like racing against these people.
Oh yeah, I mean they're in the same boat. They might have just been a couple years older, but eventually we all like level out, and it's, you can only go so fast. So it's cool. I mean it is really cool. I'm looking up to, I mean, Kylie, she's been older, and she's had such an amazing career. And so now she's one of my teammates when we're on national teams. And so it's just really cool.
Yeah. And what do you think for your swimming career so far has been the biggest achievement for you?
I would say, well, first off, my biggest swim goal is making the Olympics. I'm so proud that I did that, especially over COVID and everything in the whole world was going crazy. And I'm really proud that I was able to stick to my goals and stay focused on one thing. And so that was such an incredible experience. And then I'm also proud of, so that was 2021 in like July, August. And after that, I was on season 3 of ISL, the International Swim League. And that was also such an amazing experience. We were traveling around the world and racing every weekend, like from people around the world. And then I think going from the Olympics to ISL into short course worlds was within a 5-month span. It's easy to get kind of caught up in like the intensity and the speed of like such high level meets back to back to back and get exhausted and burn out and just like needing to take time. But I kind of was riding that momentum, and then I went to 2021 short course worlds, which was my first worlds, like world championships. And 4 a.m. was on the first day, and I was just so excited. And so I had literally the race of my life. And so I'm really happy to have ended 2021 with like such a successful season.
I wrote down like what I thought your biggest swim achievement was from like my perspective. And I literally wrote down you winning the 4 a.m. at Short Course Worlds. I literally wrote that down because I was like, I feel like like a lot of people that listen to this probably like don't watch or know anything about the swimming world. Mm-hmm. But I feel like outside of the Olympics, which happen every 4 years, the next biggest thing is like world championships, both short course and long course. And for you to like compete in that for your first time and like win your event is like insane. And also you're racing people from literally all over the world that also compete like every 4 years at the Olympics too. So being able to do that, like from my perspective, for you, biggest achievement. So I'm glad we're aligned there. And then I wanted to I have to touch on you qualifying and competing at the Olympics, obviously. The people want to know, Tess.
Okay, that's fine.
As you were training for it, it was COVID. I remember you were ranked like number 1, number 2 in the NCAA for the 400 IM, and then they ended up canceling NCAAs and then eventually postponed the Olympics. I wanted to know, what was that feeling knowing that you were like performing the best in your career, but then all the opportunities that you were going to get to showcase that, you didn't have the chance to even race there?
Oh, it was, anyone it was your senior year as well in college.
Yeah.
And so everyone who was in university in sports at the time was just like, it was the most like devastating thing. Having such a amazing and like motivating season with there's so much momentum, and for my team especially at Tennessee, like the women, we won FCCs my senior year in 2020 for the first time ever, and so that was the most incredible experience. And only a month later we were supposed to have NCAAs, and I had the number 2 seeded time. Another girl on our team had 2 of the top times going into NCAAs, and we were theoretically, I think they seeded our women's team as coming 2nd or 3rd, and so we had a real shot of doing something we've never done before. And then everything changed overnight. And I know there's lots of stories of everyone like explaining their point of view and perspective like during this time, but it really was like just everything flipped overnight. I remember it was like a couple weeks before NCAAs was supposed to happen. We had a team meeting and the coaches brought us into our team room and was like, okay, this is real. They just canceled like March Madness or something because it was around the same time. And they canceled this, and they're like, it's not gonna happen. And so, I don't know, it was, looking back on it, I'm still so grateful for what we were able to do, and like we still had an unbelievable, like undefeated season, which was also never done before. And so we accomplished a lot of things. It would have been nice to put the cherry on top, but looking at, if you put on a positive side, the world shut down, but we had an extra year to prep for the Olympics. And I think I was at home, I moved back home, so I was training with our club team and our club coach here, and so with family and just like being here or at home, it was a little bit less stressful. So I'm glad I had that leading into trials. And I'm glad that I had like a secure plan for whenever trials was gonna happen or when the Olympics were gonna happen. And so I think that helped a lot to just keep one thing in focus.
And so a year goes by. It's Canadian Olympic trials. And when you touched the wall for the 400 IM, after you had had that year of training and you realized oh shit, I made it. What, can you describe to someone what that feeling is like?
I feel like a lot of people have asked me oh, how'd you feel in that race? Even at Worlds, how'd you feel when was the point that you knew you were gonna win? And it's when it's going, a lot of athletes can relate to this. My body was on autopilot. I don't really remember swimming that race. My body just took over, the stars aligned, and I was just trusting the process of all of my training and just all my prep towards it. But touching the wall, I never really celebrate after a race. I'm not one to be splash the water or get the crowd riled up. That's just not my personality. But I think I did a little bit of that afterwards, just because how can you not? And I had my best friends that I've trained with or raced against for my whole career were also in that heat because we all swam the same event, and they just like climbed over the Leighton ropes and like gave me the biggest hug, and so it was just like the coolest feeling ever.
Oh, that's so sweet. And what do you think your biggest takeaway was while you were competing at the Olympics? Because I know that, I mean, the Tokyo Olympics were insane without like spectators, and there were all these like COVID rules that you had to follow. So what was like that experience like, and anything that you really learned from that you took away into the other years of swimming after?
Honestly, like, so Tokyo, it was so fun. It, as anyone can imagine, the village, we weren't allowed to leave the village just for like security reasons, and just COVID protocol and everything. So we were limited on what we could see of Tokyo, but the village was incredible. There was so much to do. There was like a nail salon, a hair salon, gift shops, and there's like 3 different dining halls and like a game room, like anything you can imagine. Meeting people from other countries, so fun. My swim was, my 400 IM was on the first day of the Olympics, and that was the only race that I qualified for, so after I was done swimming, I would have just been a cheerleader for the rest of the meet, which is so fun because you get to watch everything right there. My race didn't go as well as I was hoping for, and so I didn't qualify for finals, and it was bittersweet, like immediately after, but once I got back to my bag and I warmed down and I got changed after the day, it's like I still had to like bring myself back and say like, I'm at the Olympics. Like it is okay that you did not swim good on, or if you did not swim as well as you thought this one time on this one day. Like I think that was my biggest takeaway. And the older I get, it's kind of like bringing meets as small or as big as they are back into perspective. It's like who swims or who competes the best on that single day. And like you can have 6 months, a year, 3 years of like amazing training or just prep. And it's not even just, I feel like this can be relatable to anything, not just sports. It's like you can be prepping for so long, but if just somebody has a better day than you, then that's what they're going to be remembered for. And so it is bittersweet, but there is so much more in the process that you need to be grateful for and praise yourself for. And so I think that was my biggest takeaway. And what I was saying, like the older I get, the more I can relate that to like all my swim meets or everything I do like outside of the pool. It's just like the effort that you put in prepping is just as important.
Yeah, it's all about the journey.
It is
not necessarily about the destination.
Yeah, I know.
I know that you are still swimming to this day at 25, 26 years old.
26.
And honestly, the fact that you are still swimming is so impressive to me because like, I mean, you said it, our senior year, 2020 of college, that like I stopped swimming February 2020. So like it's now been 5 years because it's February right now. What has kept you motivated to just keep swimming, as Dory would say?
As Dory. I mean, as big as the Olympics are, like there are still so many other opportunities in swimming and in sport, like world championships or just nationals or Commonwealth Games, Pan Am Games. And so there were still a lot of things, like 2020, there were still a lot of things that I hadn't accomplished in the swimming world. With 2021 Worlds being my first Worlds, like I was still excited to make Worlds. I was still excited to make Worlds for long course. I went to my first Commonwealth Games in 2022. And we were fortunate at the time with ISL. That gave the kind of post-collegiate group of swimmers around the world a lot of opportunity to make a career out of it with extra prize money and extra sponsorships and just like coverage over the sport of swimming. So I think I think the year and like the time that our career kind of finished collegiately, it was like brand new, and there was a lot of opportunity to keep swimming. And so I just wanted to take advantage of it because we had there was like, I think 4 girls from my class in college that also kept swimming. And so I had a really great group of girls to train with that we were all on the same like mission to just keep going and like see what else we can accomplish. And so I'm really lucky to still have to still be able to train here in a place that I love, in like a city that I love. And I mean, yeah, it's a cool gig. Obviously it keeps you in shape. I get to travel around the world, and so I'm very fortunate for the unique opportunities that I get from the sport.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're young, you can always get back into like the working world later on in life, but being able to do what you do now, like you won't necessarily be able to do the same thing in the next 10 years. So you're like, well, might as well try it out and see how it goes.
That's true. But I mean, also you see people at the Olympics, it doesn't matter what sport, there's like people in their 30s or 40s that take a break. Mm-hmm. Like it is more common than you think to take a break for a year or two between the Olympics and then get back into shape, get back into the groove, like, and prep for like a year before the Olympics. And that's totally normal, like, and you can be like into your 30s and do that and have also like a few years of a career outside the pool. And so there's a lot of different like avenues to take through this. I think right now my goal is to swim until LA, and so we'll make a plan for that and see where that takes me.
Wow. No, I went to the Paris Olympics, and one of our old club swim coaches, Kathy, was coaching for one swimmer that was representing St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I actually didn't know that before going. I like literally bought a Olympic swim ticket. It was worth almost $800 that I spent on that ticket for one swim session. And I was like, you know what? I don't know like if I'm ever going to like have this experience again where I get to watch the Olympics. So I was like, you know what? Let me just go. Let me pay this exorbitant amount of money, more than any other concert ticket I've ever had, and just like have a blast. And then when I found out that like our old club swim coach was like coaching at the Olympics, I like had reached out to her, and then she had like brought me into the Olympic Village because you can bring in guests or like plus ones. And it was honestly like the most insane experience. Like everything that you had mentioned, like they had everything, like the hair and nail salon. Like I got like a little tour around. I was like, there are so many things. It's like the Disney World of like Olympics. It was so freaking cool.
The Olympics they take like 3 weeks from between opening and closing, and I think almost all the athletes stay in the village. And if you're there between opening and closing, you're in a village for 3-4 weeks. And so there has to be like entertainment, there has to be like other things to do. And so I'm really glad that like spectators and family members and everything were able to see the village in Tokyo, because I mean it's just like such a once in a lifetime experience, and you like can't really fathom it until you're there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was like insane to see like building after building, and like people had like hung up their like flags or like had done something around their country. It was like the idea that like all of these countries all over the world will bring athletes to compete at the Olympics is just like the epitome of everything, because like everyone puts aside their differences. There's no trade wars or anything. Like we're just coming to like compete, and like the unity around that, and like
Yes.
all the athletes that I had like interacted with were all so lovely. And because I knew this going in, that there was the whole thing about trading pins with different countries.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what? Let me just buy a few New York City pins, like for fun. So I bought like 5 New York City pins and then brought them to the village. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try and trade them. And so I got to like, I have like some pins from like, it was like Italy, Germany, Japan, Taiwan, and then I think I got like a France one. But it was like so fun, like interacting with the athletes, and they're like, "Oh my god, a New York City pin! Like I've never seen this before. It's like limited edition."
No,
It was such a hot commodity. But basically, after that experience at the village, I like went back home and I was like, should I do it? Should I go back to swimming? I was like, I think I can do this, because I was thinking about it. And I honestly feel like the mindset that you have when you're like 18 to 22, like you think you know yourself, but you do not know yourself. And you're just like following directions and like assuming like this is what is best for me. But I feel like the mindset that I have now, I'm like, honestly, if I got back into swimming, I could be way faster. I like have this thought so often. So
No, that's so
I don't think
true.
it'll actually happen, but it is a thought in my mind. Outside of the like ins and outs of the swimming world, I wanted to ask you, as a swim clinician and youth mentor speaker, what's your experience like at the swim clinics, and then also to speaking to kids about your swimming career?
It's been a lot of fun. And so I've been working with Head to Head, and it's a Canadian organization, mainly swimming, because it was founded by Martha McCabe, 2012, 2008 Olympian, I think. And so that's been really cool to work with her, and also like get to talk to a lot of clubs about it. And so what we do a little bit of like in-water session, and then we do a little Q&A, and I tell them my story, and I usually pick a topic of like a common, like a struggle or something I've had to overcome at whatever their age is. And so it's been kind of really cool for me to do. Well, sharing my story, I think is just really cool to hear, like as a little kid. My mom, every time I'm like, okay, I have another clinic, my mom's like, I remember when you met this Olympian and you still had their card or like their autograph hung up on your mirror for like years. And I was like, I don't remember that now, but it made a huge difference when I was, I guess, 10 years old. And so I think about that, and I'm like, whatever, even if I think like what I'm saying is cheesy, like the kids are going through it and they will relate to it and they'll remember it for hopefully a couple years. And so but no, it's been really, really cool to kind of think back and like take a step back into what I was doing at like 12 or 13 years old. So I'm like, so much has happened since then, so I kind of do forget about like where you started and and like what you were going through and what you had to do to get to where you are now. And so it's kind of cool. It's that part I've really enjoyed, because whenever I like say a story and I'm like, oh, I had to go through this and this, and like I was only doing this at the time, you can kind of like see a few like smiles or like some of them like perking up, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going through that too. No, so that part is really cool. And then it's also just fun, like just the difference between, or I mean, I've had throughout my swim career, I think I've worked with at least 5 or 6 coaches for years at a time. And so I've had a lot of different teachers myself, and so I've learned through all of their eyes, and everything has been different. And so I think I have a lot of different perspectives to give to little kids, which is cool.
And I'm sure those kids have signed autographs of Tess on caps hanging on their wall. So now it's like almost like it is flipped. You've gotten to that point.
That is crazy. That's actually crazy.
So wild. Want to touch on like a few other things. The first was a lot of athletes struggle with the transition out of their sport when they retire. And I wanted to ask you, like, how do you see yourself outside of swimming? And like, who is Tess outside of the swimming world?
That's a great question. I think it is so important to have like a work-life balance, and even when in high school or throughout college, like obviously we were so busy with school, classes full-time. Some people sometimes have like a part-time job and still do their sport, and so you're filling your days with a lot. And after I graduated university, I was like, all right, I'm going to commit full-time to swimming. And it was great because I actually had time to make really healthy meals and do my recovery and just like really sit down with like my goal setting for like longer periods of time than I had been. And it was great, but then it's kind of like, it kind of started to consume me. And so I think for a bit, it was like swimming. I was only swimming. I didn't have any like, wasn't doing too many hobbies. Didn't have a part-time job, or I wasn't studying at the time, so I was just swimming. And I loved that I could do that, but it was like kind of draining when you only have one thing to think about. And so it took me a little bit to realize that, but now I'm looking at courses to take again. I've been kind of planning my future a bit more. I'm getting really excited for like looking at jobs, and I've been baking lots, I've been cooking lots, and like hanging out with friends. Like Knoxville's great, like there's so much to do outside, like outdoors. There's rivers, mountains, like parks everywhere. And so I've been really trying to fill up all my other cups rather than just my swimming cup. And I think when you have other things that get you excited, or even if you have other things to fill your day, swimming, it's always been the thing I love, and it's always been kind of like my 2 hours of escape from the world when I come to practice. And so now when I have other things, like I can get back to swimming to like just be my escape, not everything. And so I think, I'm still trying to figure out, but I mean, this question you can talk about for hours, how so many athletes go through like an identity crisis when they don't have their sport anymore, especially people in like probably the NFL and the NBA. Like they've just been known as whoever the basketball player or something, like that is their identity. And then when they stop, it's like, what else can I do with my life? And so that affects everybody at every stage. After you do a sport, like you commit your entire being to that sport, and then now what? Like, and so I recognize that, and I have gone through that, and so I'm trying to like think of things and try new things that get me excited, so that when I do retire from the sport, I'll have things that I already know that will get me excited, and I can spend my days with the people that I love that are around me.
And it's okay if you don't know. I think a lot of times too, like everyone thinks they need to know who they are like outside of the sport once they're done, but it's okay if you don't have to figure it out. It's okay if you're 30 years old or 40 years old and don't have to figure it out.
That's what
Nobody
I need
has
to
it
keep
figured out.
reminding myself. It's like there's no like black and white timeline that you need to follow to find a job. People change careers all the time. Like, who knows if I'll keep for how long I'll keep swimming, or if I'll go into coaching, or if I won't even have anything to do with the sport when I'm done. Like, who knows? And like, I don't know. And so it's exciting because there are a lot of different possibilities like that can come up. But I think I just need to keep reminding myself not to like put all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And my last question for you is, you told me that you like golf. So out of all the sports, why golf?
I think, so my sister is also golf enthusiast. Our grandma loved golf. That was her sport of choice. And so it's just a fun outside of the water thing to do. My friends and I go just to like the driving range on like Sunday mornings when we don't have like swim practice. I don't know, it's just, I don't take it seriously at all right now. I'm still learning, but it's just something fun else. It's like something else to do.
Oh my gosh, maybe in a couple years you go pro golfer.
I might see that's the truth.
And that is much more, I feel like, long lasting. Like, there's so many pro golfers that are like way older. So
sure.
Opportunity there. Anyways, Tess, it was so nice to have you on the podcast. I like to end each episode with a quote because it stems from my love of Criminal Minds, where they always started and ended each episode with a quote. So my quote for you is, "Great things never come from comfort zones." And that was by Penny Alexiak.
Oh, wow.
T. But maybe I should have used the Tess quote now that I'm thinking about it.
No, it's okay. I like that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining the pod. And for those who are listening, we'll see you next time with whoever I may interview next.